Life is a journey, and if you fall in love with the journey, you will be in love forever. And I have no doubt that all aspiring and ambitious are in absolute love with this journey. A very good afternoon to everyone. I, Krishna Priya from First Year MBA Section C, take this opportunity on behalf of Christsites to welcome Mr. Samir Akhtar, Manager AP Software Channel Marketing at IBM, and Ms. Shahnaaz Waheed, the Talent Advisory Partner of Pega India, to our corporate interface session. Mr. Samir Akhtar brings in strong marketing and sales exposure and experience. He has deep exposure in working with cross-cultural and diverse teams from across the globe with primary stakeholders from the Asia Pacific and North America. He has been the recipient of the prestigious Forward Thinker Award twice and also underwent a coveted leadership development program. Ms. Shahnaaz Waheed has 11 years of rich HRBP and consulting experience, has managed large LOBs with 900 plus people strength spread across India and internationally. Her forte lies in partnering with business unit leaders on all-encompassing human resource needs. She holds 6 gold medals as university topper for psychology, sociology, and economics for the year 2006 from Bangalore University. I would also like to welcome today's moderator and alumna, Ms. Manu Batra from the class of 2008. She is working as an SAP ERP consultant in Tata Consultancy Services. She has worked in different domains like retail, telecom, manufacturing, to life sciences as an ERP consultant for various implementation, support, and rollout projects. Today, they are here with us to talk about the topic, the journey ahead, all about MBA and prepping for the future. Looking forward to this exciting session, we, the MBA students of Christ University, welcome you. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for a very good introduction about our alumni, Shahnaaz and Samir. So, welcome Shahnaaz, welcome Samir, and welcome the first year students as well as all the faculty members. So, today's session is all about the journey ahead. As we all are aware of the COVID situation, which has taken up every aspect of life and every aspect of be it professional or the personal life. So this particular session is going to be mostly talking on the various impact which the industry has as in current situation and how it's going to get translated or how its impact would be seen towards the B school. And then what are the hot skills and the job market in this particular scenario. So this is what our topics of today's discussion would be. So going ahead with Samir, he'll be talking up on the various specialization as well as the various impacts and how it's going to be translated towards the B school. Yeah, over to you, Samir.
Alrighty, I'm assuming that you can hear me well. Thank you for the wonderful introduction, and it's a pleasure to be coming back to the alma mater. Again, this is my second time where I've been given an opportunity to kind of me and Shahnaaz both. I mean, this slide is something that we are kind of used to, where we kind of were given an opportunity pre-COVID as well. I should call it that way. I think it was last year when we had come to the wonderful auditorium that we have in Christ College main campus, and we had kind of shared our thoughts. And here we are again with a wonderful set of people, the people that we essentially as alumni love the most. All of you are here. So first of all, on behalf of alumni, both me and Shahnaaz welcome the faculty and also thanks the faculty for giving us this opportunity and the students as well. I see a number of students. I was kind of keeping a track of the number of students who are joining in, and good strength. Thank you for taking out time and joining the session, and welcome to Christ School of Business and Management as well. So in the next hour or so, both I and Shahnaaz, both of us have kind of displayed our profile here, which was just spoken about as well by Manu as well. We're just going to kind of talk about, how have things changed specifically around this challenging situation of COVID, right? We have all experienced it in a way. We are kind of going through this particular challenging phase. And as MBA students, the most important thing or the thing that would be running in our mind would essentially be around what's going to happen to the economy, right? Is the economy going to be back to where it was? what are the skills that we should be developing? What are the areas or specializations that we should be focusing on? Where would the opportunities be as we go forward? Some of it would essentially be covered by me and Shahnaaz in the next 1 hour, and I'm just keeping my time as well. I'm just kind of putting up a timer here as well, so that I don't kind of expand or stretch beyond the slated time. We would be covering, but feel free as students, feel free to kind of put your comment or your questions in the Q&A section. I think Manu is also monitoring that, and we would kind of want to leave some time at the end to kind of answer some of the questions that you may have. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
so just, before you start, Samir, so any questions which are coming up during the session, so please feel free, put it there on the Q&A session. I'll be taking a note of it. And at the end of when we are left with 10 to 15 minutes, we'll be taking up that Q&A round. So yeah, over to you, Samir.
All right. Thank you again, Manu. All right, let's head straight into it. Okay. This is something which you would have in a way seen, heard, read in the news as well. But I wanted to kind of give all of you as management students, right, an overview of how the overall industry impact is with the COVID or the pandemic situation, right? This was a study done by Morgan Stanley. It was done in Q2, somewhere around early to mid of Q2. That's the study that was essentially done. The whole intent of kind of showing you is currently what is the impact of various sectors, right? With the COVID situation. Obviously, you would see if you're kind of following the presentation here, I would be moving my cursor as well. And you would essentially see, right? I mean, there's obviously this virus spread. There are obviously restrictions. This is a very US concentrated to North America market, I would say, specifically US market, but some of it more or less it applies to the growth markets as well, to the Asia Pacific markets as well, specifically India as well, right? I mean, there's like you have cases which are peaking, then cases coming down, then you have stimulus provided by the government essentially coming in as well. And this is just a projection, right? I mean, for the North America market, the projection was that schools, the primary schools and the secondary schools is what they essentially mean would open up somewhere around September, October timeframe. But then there is also a wave two of infections, which was actually predicted. Nevertheless, I don't want to kind of sound too dim or negative in kind of showing this chart. But over here, you would be easily able to see currently what the short term and the long term impact is, right? I mean, some of the sectors that have been benefited significantly, we have been relying heavily on internet service providers, right? ISPs. We have been relying heavily on modes of communications, right? Our banking services have also kind of started to transform digitally. A lot of engagements essentially happen over the web, over the app. All of us, as and you are all young crowd, right? I mean, you would be very much accustomed to having apps in your mobile phone, right? So some of the sectors, e-commerce, of course, everything, all staple deliveries, everything happens through the e-commerce platform, right? I mean, some of the sectors are actually benefiting in the sense that they have taken this opportunity, this overall challenges have thrown them to kind of transform themselves, and they have taken it to their benefit. There's certain sectors which are essential sectors, right? I mean, if you look at media, if you look at insurance, if you look at agriculture, even education services, right? They have limited impact. Yes, we have got challenges. We would have been talking face to face had this situation not been there, right, with us. So they have got limited impact, and we're all working hard as students, as faculty, as employees of various organizations to kind of come out of that. But there is a limited impact. But there's also a negative impact, right? I mean, as students, as business students, there's impact on food services. Yeah, of course, we are kind of now we're very sensitive to the kind of food that we are ordering. Are we ordering more? Are we able to go out there and eat in a restaurant? There's also an impact on entertainment. Movie releases. I know OTT platforms and other platforms is what you are actually leveraging now to kind of the young generation. Obviously, is the Netflix of generation and Amazon Prime kind of generation, right? But then, there's obviously the impact on the mainstream entertainment as well. Hoteling, or travel or accommodation is impacted as well significantly. Travel, of course, we all know. So these are like, these are the sectors which are getting impacted. But will this impact continue for long or no? We will see in the subsequent slide. Okay. So let me move forward from this. This was an overview. Now, important, a lot of you would be anyway studying in your business schools, or you would have already read, through the various news portals or the apps that you see. But here is how the economy essentially recovers, right? There are three ways of economic recovery. One is on the left-hand side, three popular ways, I should call it that way, right? One is the V-shaped recovery. The middle one is the U-shaped recovery. And the third one on the right-hand side of your screen is the L-shaped recovery, right? Now, V-shaped recovery is the recovery that we all would want to happen, right? There's in the V-shaped recovery, as you can see, there is a steep decline in economy, but the economy actually bumps up pretty significantly, and actually it goes to the level in which it goes to the pre-COVID level. That's how the V-shaped recovery is essentially. Although in reality, when the rubber hits the road, the economy recovery is usually a mix of V shape and U shape, provided the government has provided enough economic stimulus, et cetera, et cetera, supply chain gets back to normal. There's a lot of factors. But theoretically, the V shape is where it's the ideal situation, as you would have read over here on the table on the left-hand side. There's a policy intervention. Government continues to pump in money through various policies. The employment opportunity starts picking up. The vaccination is in place, or it's actually getting developed. There's a stability forecasted as well. That's V-shaped. Now, the U-shaped recovery essentially is where you have a prolonged period of instability, right? I mean, whether you don't know whether the vaccination would happen, whether vaccine would be developed, there is limited support from the policymakers in terms of the economic money that is coming in to restart the industries, to restart supply chain, etc. That's where this is a U-shaped recovery. Now, this study, which actually trended, and this was done sometime back, so it actually trended a likelihood of 65% in terms of U-shaped recovery, and that's why you see that the economy getting back to normal somewhere around Q3 of next year. But I don't think so that's going to be the case anymore. I think we are progressing much more quicker, which I'll tell you in the next slide. Before I hand it over to Shahnaaz, because Shahnaaz has a lot of content around skills, so I want to give her the due time. But on the right-hand side is where you have, I would say, not a recovery that you would not want. I mean, the recovery is not in the horizon. There is very, very limited economic support. The whole supply chain is distorted. Vaccination is not in, the pandemic is spreading continuously. And this horizon actually is, it says it will go till to 2022. Now, having known all of this, where are we trending to? This, okay? It's breaking all the barriers. This is a recent IDC study, which has been done. And it actually shows on the left-hand side that we are slated, guess what? We are slated towards a V-shaped recovery. Okay, this is was done by IDC for specifically for for IT market across the globe, but it actually applies more or less to a number of customer sets as well, because IT actually, information technology actually caters to supply chain as well, caters to development as well, caters to banking as well. A lot of sectors is where IT has an impact, right? So we are heading towards a V-shaped recovery, hopefully, and with the vaccination entering the third phase in a number of markets. You've been reading news. Government in India is also trying hard to kind of bring in the phase 3, and there's a conversations around how do we kind of distribute vaccines once it's through to our frontline, etc., etc. So the conversation has already started, which is a great thing done by the government, right? Now, the other good news is that Asia Pacific will have, which Asia Pacific essentially includes India, China, Korea, Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, etc., these Oriental countries as well, we're going to see the best recovery in these markets. Okay, so the expenditure is also going to increase. Now, expenditure by big companies or the organizations is also a hallmark or a benchmark of how the economy is, right? The organizations will only open up purchase orders and they will start purchasing only when they see that there is buyer in the market, the economy is opening up, things are kind of settling, right? So not all is bleak. This is a very, very good news that I wanted to kind of share with all of you here today with us, that we are heading towards a recovery. So as management graduates, I think there's a lot of opportunity for you to really, really be excited about. You're going to get back to normal, but there are certain things which Shahnaaz will also cover from a skill perspective. Things are changing. Obviously, the way we deal with customers, the way we deal with each other is also changing, right? Today we are talking on WebEx event, right? And so there are certain things for which we will have to also change the way we kind of skill ourselves or upskill ourselves. Okay. Now, spending doing a time check. That spending a minute here. This is again, and I don't want to make it too much of economy kind of pitch over here, but this actually reflects what I have spoken to. The purple bar actually talks about economic health, and the black bar actually talks about public health, right? So initially in phase 1, phase 2, and phase 2A and 2B, public health is the most important thing for everybody, right? That's why we have lockdowns everywhere. That's why we have travel restrictions everywhere, right? That's why we have social distancing, etc., which has been established across most of the economies. Most of the countries are actually following that, right? But we will eventually, and actually you can see, third quarter, fourth quarter, we will enter into phase 2B as well, wherein we will have a balance of economic recovery. We'll also have a balance of public health as well. Limited travel would be opened up. Employment will start picking up as well. Supply chain will start getting stabilized. Vaccine obviously will be in the production phase. And then phase 3 is where we essentially want to go in, which is obviously virus should be contained. I would use, so it should be contained. There's no more furloughs. That means, there's no restriction. Organizations, and I represent IBM over here, and I think even Shahnaaz would testify to that from Pega standpoint. And I can talk on behalf of a number of SIs, number of big organizations, right? Like Infosys, like TechM, Wipros, etc. A lot of our outreach to the customers or to the potential prospects is through face-to-face. A lot of our deal clinics wherein we kind of talk to the customer is actually over a dinner, is actually over a workshop where we actually bring in the teams together and do design thinking workshops, etc., right? So even we are essentially facing those challenges of reaching out to the prospects, right? It's not just that the prospects are not able to open up their POs and spend money, like open up their purse and spend money. In fact, we are having some challenges in terms of outreach as well. But we have kind of found out ways as kind of the organizations who are like first league in terms of transforming digitally and having offerings, digital offerings of outreach. But then obviously everyone would, as organizations also, as corporates also, we are looking forward to essentially this phase, right? That's where we would want to go to. So net of it is, everyone is moving from being cautious to more digital, right? I mean, this is what the client is actually looking at. When I say client, anyone who is purchasing technology, anyone who is purchasing items or goods, right? Because this is a reflection of the mood as well. This is where your job opportunities, your internship, etc., would also be kind of aligned as well, right? Up till now, for the first few months, the organizations wanted to mitigate risk, right? They wanted to be very careful of where they're investing. Now they have started optimizing. So they are now open to hearing more ideas. They're actually looking at, customers are looking at where should they be putting their money, etc. Right now. And then this is the phase where most of the organizations are investing their money into going digitally transforming, right? I mean, I've just quoted over here Microsoft CEO, where he said 2 years worth of digital transformation in just 2 months. That's a reflection of how quick we have been able to shift, or how quick the buyer has been able to shift the behavior. So a lot of interactions as we go forward. A lot of people say, right, the world will not be the same even if the recovery happens, right? Of course, we're going to have much more digital interaction, as compared to any other interaction. Okay, so this was a bit of gist over here. Now, coming to B schools, a lot of gyan is what I've actually given you. Now, coming to B schools, I would request Shahnaaz to kind of pick it up from here and take all of you through what she has to kind of say, starting with Henry Ford.
Thank you, Samir. I think I personally enjoyed everything that you had to say about the economic landscape. And, during our practice sessions, you just said, oh, I'm just going to cover the overall. But I must say that I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm very sure that the students here have also had a ball of the time. So really, thank you for setting that pitch. Extremely important for us to be looking at, the far-reaching repercussions and the consequences that this entire pandemic situation has really brought into our lives. And given that all of us are management students, we are in the management part of the world in the corporates, I think it only makes sense for us to spend a little more time to look at how that entire thing is going to translate to us in this current situation, very much as MBA students. So first of all, I must say that this is a very refreshing feeling to, really have a session like this in the middle of a choco-blocker kind of a corporate calendar. And you don't know how much Samir and I have actually been looking forward to this. And as he said, one of my favorite parts of my MBA was the Christ College auditorium. And Samir and Manu, who are here, Manu is the moderator, they would know that I was less in the classroom and more on stage in the Audi. And even when a year back we spoke to the first year MBA students, then I said, oh, it's such an amazing feeling to be in college. I don't know if you all have had a chance to make your visits to college, and if not, I really hope you all do so, because that really adds to the entire experience, right? The School of Business Management really is very proud of having the best infrastructure in the country. And I just hope that we get out of this pandemic very quickly, quicker than we all think, and you all really get back to that state of normalcy. But of course, now that we are in the new normal, I want to start off with this quote by Henry Ford, which is really, it's been my kind of a guiding principle, if I could put it that way. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right, right? So, because even if you have that entire world around you cheering for you and hoping that, hey, you will be able to crack this, you will be able to take up this job, you will be able to meet the deadlines. But deep down, if you ain't confident, you will not be able to really take off on that tangent. So what this quote has always done to me is, it just shifts my motivation levels to an internal locus of control. And once you know that you can take charge, you can really do wonders. Next slide, please. All right. So Samir did talk about, the far-reaching, the clientele experience, his entire experience with the supply chain management, how, something that's happening in the US will definitely have an overlapping kind of an impact in the Asian markets, in the EMEA markets, right? So the entire globe is one. What we got to understand is we got to really take a step back and prepare ourselves for it while we are really setting ourselves for success. How do we do that? Where are we right now? We are here as MBA students, right? So, I mean, Samir and I are coming from a different plane altogether where we have been there, done that, and we've really seen the industry move so much by leaps and bounds. And now if we have to really go back almost 15 years back and look at what would we have done differently as MBA, it is really trying to be resilient. It is trying to do that change management in the most creative way possible. Because MBA so far and MBA for us has been where we were in the traditional classroom. We would meet each other, we would talk, we would be on stage, we would manage the show. Well, we have also been class reps, right, Samir? So, we would really interact with the faculty. We really know that part of the story. We know we have been plugged into the curriculum a little more. However, now it's all the virtual world, right? You constantly have to keep checking. Are you visible enough, right? Do people know you enough? Do your professors know you enough? Are you able to really communicate enough and get to the point that you really want to make, be it a case study, be it some kind of a project submission? It gets down to as simple as that. And now everybody is talking about finding your mojo, which is basically what energizes you,
right? Today, everybody in the corporate, everybody, be it a homemaker, be it somebody in the corporate, right? Everybody is really trying to grapple with the situation of, I feel always on. I am unable to switch off, right? So we're here, we start off our calls early in the morning. It just goes on and on till 1 o'clock in the evening because we're just unable to switch off. Everybody is working, but in the middle of all of this rut, how are you doing, right? There are so many people who have reported burnout. How is it happening for you all in the college world? I would love to hear. So it is important for us to find our mojo, to really look at our personal well-being, our stress levels, our mental state. What are you doing for yourself? What are some of those learning opportunities that you are taking up to keep yourself holistically up there? Because at the end of it, when you will be arriving at an interview stage, be it for an internship or where you're really getting into the corporate, I'm sure some of you already have a prior work experience, but for some of you, it is just going to be that campus to corporate. We don't want people who have just been there, stuck somewhere within this box, especially in a pandemic kind of a situation. We want people who have been there, done that already, right? So it is important for you to look at what are you doing beyond your curriculum, your vivas, and the general rut. Talking of hip pocket skills, there was this very interesting video that I saw of Indra Nooyi where she is interviewing for one of the leadership series. So it's a wonderful video. I can actually send across to you. She talks about hip pocket skills. So in the corporate, you get to be famous. You get to be known as somebody who possesses something very specialized, which really marks you apart from everybody else and which really helps you crack. So you may get to become famous as the data person. You may get to be famous as the communicator. You may get to be famous as a research person. You may be somebody who can really turn around things overnight. For instance, we had to put together a program called Leading with Empathy. And my chief people officer reached out to my boss who leads country HR and said, hey, I want somebody who can do things very quickly and who is very good when it comes to cross-cultural global collaboration. So she said, pick Shahnaaz, right? Versus there was something else where we were doing, a global, some kind of a launch of a tool, right? And my boss reached out to me and I said, I do not connect with this. And is it possible that you please pick somebody else? It is important for you to realize very early on in your professional life as to what is your hip pocket skill. And the more aware you are, and the more visible you make that for yourself and for others, better are the chances that you will be able to really get ahead in your career. So keep that at the back of your mind, not only when you enter the so-called corporate kind of a setup, but it is important for you to make use of your MBA really as a playing field, because that can really set you up for success. Earlier, as of course, Samir already gave a very positive kind of a picture that by this year end or maybe the first half ending of 2021, we will be in a much better state considering the V-shaped kind of a recovery. Having said that, so far, the ROI, your return on investment, you've invested not only your money in your MBA, you have invested yourself. It's going to be your 2 years of your life. You've given yourself to this, right? So earlier it was, very much straightforward. You have your internships coming up, you finish that, you have to sit for your interviews, you have your final placements, and then you start off, bang. But now it is very important for you to keep remembering my quote from Henry Ford and really taking charge of those situations and look at how can you make not just your placements or your entrepreneurship, how can you even make your upcoming internships creative? Yeah. So today everybody is talking about how can we give it back to the society. There is a lot of focus on corporate social responsibility. Lots of NGOs have come. There is a Prime Minister Cares Fund, but nobody really knows how is the money being tracked, where is it actually going and all that. While I have donated to it, while I'm completely supportive of some of these government initiatives, but on the other hand, you also have Give India, you have the Seva in Action, you have Akshaya Patras, and so many. You have Greenpeace, you have Myrada, you have so many of these who have sprung up, which are a little more professional as well in their overall giving strategy. You can get reports on where is your money going and all of that. So at a very high level, what I want you to keep in mind is try and engage with your faculty a little early on, much before it's, you all officially hit the season of internships, and look at how feasible is it for you to actually walk into an Accenture, sit there for 3 months and do your internship and submit that report saying that you have been there in Accenture and you've done a particular topic. Is that really possible? Because all of us are working from home. I've been working from home for the past 4 months, right? 24th of March is when we got into the lockdown. So, what are the possibilities of bringing in more flexibility into your internships? Is it possible for you to do a desk research? Is it possible for you to really get creative, work more in the freelancing space, work more with the NGOs, right? And maybe you can get in touch with some of the entrepreneurs who are already there in the alumni network. Samir was talking about a very good mentorship program, a buddy program that he's spearheading. I think it is time for you to really leverage a lot from the alumni network as well, and really, set the ball rolling right from as early as your internship season, which probably you all will be entering in a few months from now. So one of my favorite memories, I put that word bonding there just to remember. At least the three of us are from the same batch, right? Samir and Manu and I, in fact, we're classmates. Very early on, I think in our first trimester, in the very second month, we were taken on an outbound training. This was about maybe 40 kilometers or something from Bangalore. And it was, an overnight stay. And we were made to climb mountains. We were made to do cave explorations. We were made to do night treks. We had, all of this campfire and all of that. And you see, you look at me, how happy I become when I'm talking about some of these things. But it did two things to me. One is I got to know that people do have a different side to them, right? We're all here, we all want to learn, we all want to really show the management angle of ours, but there's an entirely different, the so human being that you are. And it is very important for you to be transparent, really, not have that facade all the time. Some of these things are really possible when you really spend time bonding, right? Because as you see, 15 years later, when you do have some of us who are part of the alumni who come back because it's payback time, that's how you live life. That's how you really build on relationships. So that becomes important. Coming to today in the virtual space, I mean, I'm really being very candid. Sometimes I really wonder, when Kavita ma'am got in touch with us, I was like, have they even coming to a college? So you really have to see, all you have is WebEx and Zoom and everything. By the way, I was absolutely thrilled watching your Independence Day video. It came out really well. So try and do more of that. Do not get really lost in, your MBA, because your studies is such, because every little thing that you do over and above your textbook, right, is really going to matter. So find your mojo, try to make yourself visible. Extremely important for you to, have a very sharp, steep learning curve, and see how you can have WebEx spaces, maybe on cookery, on some kind of, some of you could be guitarists, I don't know what, but just try to, bond beyond your the project work, because I don't know how to put it, but it's more important than you may think. We can go to the next slide, please, Samir. Okay. Sky is the limit. Speaking of Pega, and I've also worked with HP and Wells Fargo and briefly with Shell. So everywhere I have seen that your learning doesn't really stop with an MBA, right? You have to keep that learning curve really steep, as I said. Try and explore MOOCs, which is your massive open online courses. You have Coursera, you have LinkedIn, you have edX, you have Get Abstract. And some of these courses are really state of the art, very, very nice and comprehensive. And you can also get certifications, which you can very well mention in your resumes. So these are some of the things that will really place your CV a class apart, and you will be able to really make a good cut in your interviews and get yourself placed. Because for me, you really crack it when you find a good a role, a good job, or you create your role and you start off after your 2 years of MBA. So you have to really approach it in a more methodical way. It's not that tomorrow you know that a Honeywell is coming and today you suddenly wake up and you start really rambling around. Add in your personality, and can you really create a sparkle? Samir, as he rightly said, I think all of you are Gen Zs, correct me if I'm wrong. People, I'm sure all of you have a Netflix and a Hotstar and those Fire Sticks. I have one, all of us do. And recently somebody told me, Shahnaaz, have you watched Gunjan Saxena? So I said, nahi yaar, abhi dekhna hai. So anyway, I said, hey, everybody's talking about Gunjan Saxena. Let's just grab a watch. I thoroughly love that movie. It's based on a true story of Gunjan Saxena, who happens to be the first lady pilot in Air Force. It's about her struggles. And one of my favorite scenes, if I may pick, just to tell you what I mean by, create your sparkle is, I think they are in choppers. Gunjan Saxena is in one chopper, and she has a senior who really thought that she doesn't have much of stuff. She's not even going to do anything over here in the Air Force. He's in the other chopper, and there is this battle scene, and her senior's chopper gets shot, and they are all wounded, and the chopper's down. And Gunjan gets clear instructions that this is a very high risk kind of mission, and just return back to the base. And she knows that that guy, who is the air traffic controller, has no clue of what's happening here in the battleground. She takes her call, her judgment. So she instructs to her co-pilot that let's hover around closer to the battlefield. They pick up the gun, they shoot down their enemies on the other side of the party, and they go and pick up the wounded bodies of their colleagues, and they transfer them onto their chopper and they bring them back. Until then, they were all thinking that Gunjan Saxena has no stuff and she would not be able to turn around any damn thing. So that for her was really, that turning point. So many other movies are coming to my head right now. I don't know how many of you have watched Sully, but again, he ended up landing his plane in the Hudson River. So I can talk again about that, but I will just give that a pass. But these are some of the things that you may want to, just know, that everybody is looking for a fresh pair of eyes while you're doing an eyeball of things which are already there, in some of these big organizations, things are there. So you have to cultivate this entire mindset of how can you start looking at things differently, right? So those are some of the things that will help you crack the corporate. Build skills, build trust. Okay. It's important for you to know maybe, advanced Excel, SPSS, which is Statistical Package for Social Sciences. We did it when we were in MBA. Some of you who are the lean ops guys, you know about the Six Sigma, certifications and lean operations certifications. People who are perhaps interested in the project management part of the world, you must have heard of PM Light, ITIL, which is Information Technology Infrastructure Library kind of a course. You have the PMP certification, which is a full-blown certification for about 35 or 40K. Right. So it is one thing to take up all these courses and to say that, look, I am certified, but it's another thing to know what are you doing with it. And when you know that you're able to apply those certifications and skills and you're able to deliver in a much more collaborative manner and build that trust. You don't let down your colleagues, you don't let down your boss, you have that hip pocket skill and you keep playing upon your strengths. That is how you build trust, because in today's world, if I don't trust you, it doesn't matter how meritorious you are. So I've always been hearing about relationships and all of that, but it's only when I hit the corporate I understood how important it is. Everybody talks about the the jungle gym kind of a concept, because today you will know that when you picturize your career, you feel that it is a ladder, but it is no longer a ladder. It is more of a branching. It is more of a jungle gym kind of a concept where, in Pega, very recently, somebody who is in a strategic role really stepped a level down and took up something in Pega Consulting, because he said that, hey, I don't care if this is a grade down, I could be placed on a salary band which is slightly lower than where I am today, but this is my mojo. This is what I want to be doing for the rest of my life, and I want to shift my field from an industry apps developer to a consulting kind of a field. And we went ahead and we processed that internal job movement because he cracked all the interviews like he's been in consulting all through, right? So here is a pictorial representation. And you will see, the horizontal there, which is typically some of the most famous industries or the domains that you see. BFSI, which is banking and financial sector. You have healthcare, manufacturing, hospitality, entertainment, the government sector, the retail, the IT, which really, as Samir was mentioning, it's become the backbone across all these industries. So Today, we are in a global environment where we know that all of these are interdependent on one another. We will not have an industry or a domain which is working in an absolute silo. So wherever you are, the pattern is you start off with certain, starters roles. So for those of you who are more inclined towards finance, you will see that you will see yourself taking up roles like a financial analyst or an underwriter or simply doing accountancy, treasurer. You would do audits and compliance. Those of you who are into the mainstream kind of banks in India, who are into the retail banking space, you could also do trading and investment management. For those of you who are inclined into marketing, you could start off as a sales a manager, or you could be in content writing. You could then grow up to be a brand manager. You could start doing markets performance analysis, something that Samir Akhtar does. For those of you who are into HR, you could start off in the L&D space. You could move into the recruitment engine space. Those of you who are inclined into labor laws, right? You could do a whole lot of, the POSH Act, all of your Shops and Establishments Act, and all of that, and really become a labor law officer within. Or you could be a benefits officer, or you could get into heading payroll and global mobility services for international HR management. So we have all of these roles. So all of those roles that you actually see and read in your textbooks, they're all for real out there, right? And you will see that as you start off, for those of you who are into business analysis and lean operations, right? For you guys as well, I mean, you can start off with managing processes, audits, and all of that. As you really do your jungle gym and you climb up the rungs of your career ladder, you will see that you head towards a VP-ship, you head towards being in the advisory boards, you are there doing a whole lot of client engagement across global portfolios, you would do market leadership, you're creating markets, you're actually creating the demand and supply rather than waiting for any kind of an L or a U or a V, right? You would do a whole lot of strategy for setting up GICs here in India. So the real difference in terms of from where you start and where you will see yourself is when you start, you will focus more on the functional skills, and Samir will talk to you about it in a few minutes from now. But as you really grow up the chain, what is important for you is what we very fondly call in Pega as success behaviors, right? So we do have 5 success behaviors. Let me test my memory. So you have excellence with a sense of urgency. You have learning with empathy. You have accountability with transparency, collaboration with alignment. And for those of us who are in the certain layers of management, we have an additional one which is called the engaged enterprise leadership, which really is an amalgamation of everything, which is like, a straight path for you to do more of horizontals and leadership and strategies and portfolios. So this is something I'd like to leave you with. The next slide, yeah. All right, so we spoke about, what keeps you rooted, which is your skills, and really you have to build on your base and then you begin to branch out. And while you do that, remember that the only way that you will get ahead is be aware. So if you look at the black arrow mark there, right, which really puts you onto the other planet called the corporate, important for you to know your hip pocket skill, important for you to do great internships. Some of us have been successful in grabbing those pre-placement opportunities. I need you to really take your internships more serious than not. Of course, you have your group discussions and placements. I don't mind admitting here on this forum that I had a very difficult time cracking an interview and finding myself that HP job, right? It was none of, the companies that came to us the end for HR. That's simply because I did not really make the cut through maybe 4, 5, 6 companies. I've really lost count. But I was the topper. I was the HR topper. I was all kinds of topper. I had my gold medals. I was on stage. I was everywhere. I didn't know what was going wrong. I just could not find myself an offer letter when everybody else is getting offer letters. And then one day I sat and I thought, I'm so bad at selling myself. I always thought that my work spoke for itself. And I'd sit in the interview and I'd be like, look at my resume. That's about it. Do I even need to talk? But then when I realized that it's all about talking, making yourself visible, and I started practicing when the placement season was on, because one thing that MBA did not do to me, at least 15 years back, was they never taught me how to crack interviews. I'm sorry, but I'm just being brutally honest. And if that is an onus that you have to really pass on to yourself, please start early. because it's not a skill that you will really, start off overnight. And I do interviews like, really very, very frequently. I interview from certain grades and above. In my first 10 minutes, I decide whether I'm going to hire this person or not, right? So if you know that you have only 5 or 10 minutes to set the pitch, your elevator pitch, you really got to be working on your communication skills. And how do you want to convince that HR across the bench, right? So it is most important, I would say, the single most important. All that you've done will go into the back burner if you're not able to convince me in your first 10 minutes. So that is a very, very important skill. So understand that as long as you're able to practice EQ and empathy, and you will see yourself managing people, that's how you grow, unless you get into an IC kind of a career ladder. But mostly about 85% of people grow by really managing teams, having a larger headcount. I think Samir has about 20 people reporting to him or something like that. So it's all about bringing in that EQ. It is about the trust, your collaborations and elevator pitches, because you need to, nobody has the time. Right from the time you join, you will be talking to very senior people because you have chosen to do that because you're management students. So you need to really work on your communication skills and elevator pitches. Getting your point across very, very quickly is really the key. Be brave enough to dream. I have that there. I just want to quickly also leave you with what are all of firms doing given the pandemic situation. While Samir gave you a beautiful summary of what's really transpired so far, and let's really hope for the best. We all pray that things get back to normal. While some of us could actually be okay, people like me who have 2 kids, yeah, I do have some FaceTime with them. But yes, there are ups and downs, and people react differently to the pandemic. But as I said, there is a disproportionate focus on what we can do for our communities and our societies, starting with employees and being on the HR part of the management side. Maybe I'm a little closer to what we all do, right? So we've come up with manager toolkits. Really, when we have the entire workforce, 100% of Pega's workforce is today working from home. So how do we virtually engage with them? We're doing performance management virtually. We're doing all these project deliverables and the goals, the exercise, and everything is virtual. So how do we want them to really bring in that fine balance? We've spent considerable amount of time there. We've brought in a lot of flexibility in leave policies. On one side, we have the law of the land. The other side, we have our company kind of an approach. So we've really built in a whole lot of flexibility there. We've been able to crowd fund about 700K USD in terms of our employee pledge funds. A part of it, we have kind of done the proceedings towards World Health Organization's Solidarity Response Fund. And the other half is something that we've kept aside. We've started receiving applications from our Pega employees whose spouses have lost their jobs to COVID. So we've gone to that extent to actually help them. Health and ergonomics, yes, people started writing to us saying that we don't have offices at home, right? My back is aching and my neck is paining and things like that. And then we really started getting a plethora of requests, and we suddenly saw every other company, be it the Googles, the Facebooks, every other company within the tier 1, they started giving a minimum of 500 USD for people to actually set up their home office setup. So we've done that, and a lot of work in the insurance space. So that is where finance and HR collaborated very, very closely, where we wanted to be, Pega wanted to be the market leader in really impacting the health insurance very positively, really not passing on the premium amounts to our employees, but really seeing how we can really bring in that cost consciousness, and at the same time bring in that employee delight, that hey, we care for you and these are the additional insurance that we are providing. Creating customer success and leadership and inspiration. Well, this is the real time when the leadership gets tested, right from a CEO level to the first line manager, where we really have almost created a kind of a mandate where we wanted them to do those FLT check-ins, functional leadership team check-ins, and those whatever fortnightly check-ins. simply to let our people know that we have a very great, healthy clientele pipeline. Our revenues are not being hit. We are on target simply because, when you read in the news that an Uber or a town hall ended up firing 3,000 people, well, let's face it, while Samir gave us a good positive aspect to it, the single most factor that has really set in, which could play to a great disadvantage, is the job security. And that is something that we really had to deal with as management, and creating those customer stories, right? So this is what you will find yourself doing once you really settle into the corporate. You have to own it like it's your dhanda. I had a manager who said, work like it is your dhanda, man. So that is how you need to do it. Like it is your work, it is your house, it is your family. And as long as you're able, so that is what you will see yourself doing once you spend a little more time in the corporate.
All right. Thank you,
Over to you,
Shannon.
Samir. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was pretty engaging. I like the some of the reference to the movies that you essentially made, and I was made to watch some of those movies, which are kind of like Gunjan Saxena and all of that. I'm not a big Hollywood fan, so obviously I normally watch all the Indian movies for sure. So that was a good reference to that. I would just take away, in the next, and I'm sensitive to time, because I want to leave a bit of time for Q&A. Um, in all of this, what you have essentially shared, right? One thing comes out very strongly, and that is, how are we building on our skills, right? I mean, and skills, I think I'll pick up from what Shahnaaz said or shared, that skills is something that we continue to learn, hone, evolve, right? I mean, as within corporate, we continue to learn. I'm sure the faculties are doing an excellent job in kind of evolving their skill sets. I mean, nobody taught anyone to kind of teach over a digital platform, right? I mean, engage students over a platform. They're doing a phenomenal job doing that. As students, nobody had essentially in the school days. I mean, you are young crowd, way, way younger than I am, way, way. But nobody actually, taught us how to kind of cope, how to kind of learn from the digital mode. But you have plethora of now opportunities to kind of hone yourself. Now, one of the good things which I want to call out is that location is no more a constraint. I mean, you can reach out to any number of courses, online courses. Obviously, priority has to be the courses which is being taught in the School of Business and Management for sure, and the wonderful professors that what's the subjects that they're teaching you. But continue to keep yourself abreast of what's happening. Continue to Shahnaaz touched upon SPSS, Excel skills. Trust me, some of them like Excel skills are across everywhere, whichever role you do. And some of the roles, I mean, just touching base upon the slide here, are interchangeable as well, right? I mean, you can start with, let's say, analytics role, maybe in operational analytics, and you could be in financial analytics, you could be in marketing analytics, yet go into brand management, yet go into sales, right? Most of the corporates, most of the organization, at least mid-size and above, that means those organizations who have 500 employees and beyond, essentially end up, are now following a norm of allowing the employees to kind of change their roles, or allowing the employees to take on new challenges. Shahnaaz used the word "find your mojo," right? I mean, this organizations are now becoming. When I say now, I mean in the past 5 years have started to become much more flexible. So even though you may have studied finance, you may end up being in sales, you may end up being in HR. I have had in IBM cases where we have had employees who started off in HR and now doing phenomenally well in brand management, are doing phenomenally well in marketing, right? So, organizations are continuously evolving, but one thing that stays is how you kind of hone on your skills, okay? One of the other thing I wanted to kind of show you, if you have not seen it earlier, if you've seen it earlier, forgive me for showing it again. But I wanted to show you this. This is actually based on LinkedIn Learning, and LinkedIn actually did a research, and they had a pool. The research base was pretty large. I think it was somewhere around 115,000 or 120,000 employees that they kind of interviewed. the HR managers, etc., were actually interviewed. Some of the top skills, I mean, and this is not just related to marketing or finance or just MBA graduates, etc. This is the top skills, right, on the left-hand side that you kind of see. Now, this is the reflection of interchangeable, some of the reflection of, I would say, the skills which are not associated with any particular functional area, any particular area where you would need to invest specific skill sets, right? These are soft skills. That's why they're called as soft skills. Creativity, persuasion, collaboration, adaptability, emotional intelligence. Now, last year, emotional intelligence was not there, if I remember correctly. And if you're actually viewing my slide, you could have, I'm sure half of you would have already scanned through what is actually written. So I would be just repeating it through. Time management was one of the top soft skills last year, but time management has now, emotional intelligence has come in as a new skill, replacing time management. Specifically around pandemic time, getting yourself into having a strong emotional skill is a very important attribute that the organizations, the corporates are actually looking at from an employee perspective. That means, what is emotional intelligence or EQ? We keep on talking about EQ. It actually is. It's all about a few terms, and forgive me for using jargons. You can Google it later. Empathy, etc. Right? But it's all about knowing yourself, right? What you are good at, what are the skills, how's your personality, and also having an empathy, also having an understanding of the ecosystem around you, right? Either virtually, either in the city or the town that you're currently based out of, etc., would essentially have an awareness. So you raise your awareness level, and that's why it's very important to kind of start honing your awareness, your consciousness, that would translate to emotional intelligence. Now, I'm not a Sadguru who's coming here to give you, how do you kind of, increase your emotional intelligence, but some of these skills are important. How do you present yourself? How do you communicate? How are you able to articulate your thoughts? Now it's even more tougher, with all the network, internet challenges, etc., with the FaceTime has actually reduced in a way. Physical FaceTime has actually become very scarce, and it'll continue for a few more months at least. That's how we see it. So how do you kind of overcome this and continue to build on your skills, right? Some of the hard skills, which are non-transferable as well, which depends on your interest, like business analysis, always, sales, affiliate marketing, analytical reasoning. These are some of the things that you should anyways continue to focus on, right? Continue to develop as well. So I just wanted to kind of give you a brief on what are the skills that are in demand actually. So now I'm just going to spend a minute on this. I took a bit of classes from Shahnaaz in terms of really understanding where I fit in this. Okay, I was thinking I'm still young, but then she kind of made me, realize that I'm pretty old in this particular graph. But the whole overall table, essentially, if you look at this table, it actually says for Gen Z, right, which you all are, what is the most important attribute that you're looking at, right? I mean, obviously, millennials who would be somewhere in the as of now in the bracket of 30 years, 35, 38, 40 till 40 years of age, they would be focusing a lot on management skills, right? Because that's where they're heading to. Shana spoke about VP ships. She spoke about getting into advisory board, getting into a director level position, right? So that's why management and leadership kind of is an important priority for millennials and Gen X as well. For boomers, obviously they have now gone through that overall cycle and mostly towards post-retirement or towards the retirement phase. So management and leadership is not much of a focus there, but this is an outcome of the study, which essentially shows, creativity still for you folks, creativity is still an important aspect. That's what the outcome of study is. New software related to your role. Basically, how are you updating yourself on the new technologies that is essentially coming in? Are you able to pitch yourself using a WebEx? How vocal are you? Right. I mean, in our times when we were in college, and I know in the interest of time, in our college when we were in Christ, right, it was easy to make ourselves felt in the class, right? I mean, you would make yourself available. You would stand up and answer and kind of do a behavior which would essentially, in front of professor, the professors would know that, okay, you are someone, you have a point of view. Now, how do we make that possible while we are doing all the classes on, let's say, WebEx, on Zoom, or any other, Microsoft Teams, etc., Google Meet? How do we what are the skills? How do we kind of position ourselves? How do we kind of sit? How do we kind of ensure that we are not only absorbing what the content that is coming to us, and there's plethora of content. Now everybody's talking virtual, digital, there are webinars essentially happening for you to kind of learn, but how do we kind of grasp what is important, right, coming out of it? So I just wanted to highlight this, build on soft skills. Now, I would want to leave all of you with a T-shape model. Now, this is an excerpt from what we follow in IBM, and I've not actually used the word IBM over here for sake of confidentiality, and I've kind of moved certain things. But the crux of this is that IBM evaluates employees on 8 skills, 8 parameters. Okay, there are certain broad-based, which is client relationship, communication, negotiation, and global IBMer essentially means how are you able to interact with audience outside India, because we're headquartered out of US, Monk. Yes, I think we are on time.
Yep. Yeah, carry
Okay.
on. I mean, I'm just giving you half a minute more.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me this half minute. I'll make a best use
Okay,
of
go
it.
ahead. Go ahead.
And if you actually look at this, I would just want to leave you with the thought that out of the 8 skills that we evaluate, only one at the bottom is a functional skill that is dependent on the kind of role you're doing, whether you're in taxation, whether you're in marketing, etc. But there are 7 skills that are transferable. The 7 skills are actually more attributed towards the softer skills that we just saw a couple of slides back, right? So this is what I wanted to kind of reiterate. Lastly, I know I'm taking more time, but networking is very important. Visible job market is just 20%. Remember, there's also a hidden job market, which is around 80%. And this is just a number that I've used, 20 and 80. It's not an analysis that I've done, but there's a lot of hidden job market, which you'll know when you actually network. And that's where we alumni also come on, have a role as well to play. Okay. And good luck. All right. Thank you, Kavita man, for allowing me those extra seconds and minutes.
Yep. Thank you, Samir, and thank you, Shahnaaz, for a wonderful and informative presentation. So basically, the entire agenda of this particular presentation and this particular session was to let you all know that how the COVID is going to impact the job sector and how the MBA students, how they are going to take it up now. So basically, the fact that, as Shahnaaz has rightly pointed out and Samir has pointed out, the fact is all about the visibility. First point, how you are going to make yourself visible, be it in front of your professors, be it in front of your own student domain, be it in front of the networks that you are building up. So, how you are going to kind of make yourself visible. And then the other key word that should get attached to you is how are you need to take yourself as a project basically for the coming 2 years. Being just an MBA student or studying in Christ College cannot let you have good internships or good placements. So the key word is you need to take yourself as a project for the coming next 2 years in order to get yourself placed, or in order to get yourself to that kind of a bar wherein you are actually at a competent level with all the laterals or the freshers or the various MBA students which are there competing with the Christ College students as well. So yeah, I'll quickly now go on to the Q&A session. So basically, we'll pick up the first question here. The first question itself talks about kind of a distinction factor between freshers and the laterals. So the question is that since most of the students who have joined has work experience, how can the freshers reach to the level? So I put this question to both Shahnaaz and Samir. So can we have a view on that, please?
I'll let the HR speak
Right.
first.
The HR lady, Shahnaaz, please share your.
Well, we were also in a very similar situation. So when companies do come for placements, your placement cell does a great job of actually letting them know of the cuts, the percentage of people who are freshers and percentage of people who have a couple of years of experience or how many ever years. So companies are So if you are looking at the company's standpoint, we are very particular that we hire you for the right skills. So I would never put somebody who has prior work experience into a grade where I would mix them up with people who are fresh in the market. So companies are very, very particular about that, and you can be rest assured. Now, from your perspective, given that the ecosystem is very straightforward, you can jump the gun because there is a way that corporates function. So there is no way that you will end up in the same grade as somebody who is holding some relevant experience. Of course, if somebody is holding experience as, let's say, a receptionist in a hospitality sector and has now done maybe MBA and is in the mainstream, let's say in marketing, then obviously that prior work experience is not going to be relevant. So if your worry is that you will not be the same level of player in the field, you shouldn't be worrying about that. You should be only worried about, are you getting the right placement, which is very much in line with where you can do the best.
Right. So, Shahnaaz, there is another question to you. What are the current roles which are in demand for an HR MBA graduate?
Well, there are all kinds of HRs in the market. People who have started off with recruitment, who have gotten into labor office because they have picked up skills on, the labor laws. They've done certain external courses, and then people have gotten into HRIS, working very closely with SAP experts, and then people who get into HR business partnering. That is one kind of a jungle gym or the branching out that we spoke about. If you were to talk about me, all my life in the corporate, I have been an HR business partner. So I'm specialized in business partnership, which means I need to be very much hands-on what is the business strategy and how can I enable my business on the human resources side of it. Starting from hiring, talent engagement, the entire strategy in terms of global talent movements, looking at compensation, international compensation, and there are certain pieces which an HR leader or a manager can't escape, which is ethics, compliance, really building the manager capability. So it really depends on what kind of roles the company comes with. So I got placed into an HRBP role with HP. I know of some of my classmates who got placed on the recruitment side. So it really depends.
Right. So, okay, so the next question is for Samir sir. Why are there only three modes of recovery? What are the other shapes? That's the
Oh,
question.
I feel like I'm an
And,
analyst before answering this. Sorry, you're going to say or should I answer?
and I'm also combining another question with it. It's what will be the outcome of small cap industries?
Oh, this is the tough ones to me. Okay, so there are many ways of economic recovery, right? I mean, there are some models that I did not share on purpose. There's something called as W model. Okay, the W model is where the economy goes down, then economy comes up, and then pandemic again comes, and there's lockdown again, then economy goes down again. It's like rippling effect, right? And the economy is not able to sustain, and you have high, very, very high inflation, and the economy actually breaks out of the W model. There's some economists who have come up with some proprietary models also, but what I actually shared, the V, U, and L-shaped model are the most commonly used models by not only economists, but financial analysts as well, because that is a reflection. If you even go back 100 years or 150 or 200 years as well, and you were to study economy, right? How has the economy, sustained? Where has been economic crash, etc., etc. You would find that these models are a much better reflection of how the economy has come up. The second reason I reflected these three models is because they're easy to present and easy to comprehend as well. So I just used these three models. Not that I didn't want to use, not that the other models are not very functional, but these three essentially represent the health, right, of how we are recovering. Even if you were to go back, let's say, 50 years back, right? Small cap industries, Oh yes, they are the ones. So it's like they're volatile, a bit volatile. Now I don't. You can always debate about how do we kind of define small cap, but small cap is, according to my view, anything that you have within $1 billion, right? Within a billion or a couple of $1 billion of revenue or turnover. Those companies who have that would still fall under small cap or would still be classified as small cap companies. The definitions kind of now have started varying. Now, these organizations are not like giant elephants, right? We're talking about IBM, which was an $100 billion company. Now it's about $80 billion company, and now we are going in the growth trajectory. But making a change in a small cap organization, transforming themselves, given the current situation, is much more easier and flexible in a small cap organization. But of course, the impact is also even more deep in a small cap organization because the currency reserve may not be much unless the small cap organization or a company has spread across various markets. So obviously, reach out to me on LinkedIn and write to me, and we can actually have a debate on small caps. But I see the recovery in small caps going to lead us as we go forward. In fact, as an organization, IBM as an organization, we are actually competing on the cloud space with companies which are even minute. I mean, you could call them as small cap companies or organizations, and they are taking over the cloud space like anything. Their growth is in double digit, even with pandemic on as well. So the recovery is also equally fast for small cap organizations. Okay.
Okay, so basically I'll take a last question and I'll combine few questions together. So wanted to understand your viewpoint on, how about MBA students, first year students taking up HR analytics, marketing analytics? What's the future? What's the future of MBA students in marketing analytics and HR analytics? And also if you can throw some light on finance part as well. So we just have a minute to go because then we have to close this session.
Okay, thank you, Manu. So analytics of any kind, and I can speak on behalf of marketing analytics, is amazing. Just Google out the organizations that have sprung up in the last 3 years who are dealing with big data, who are dealing with data mining, right? You will find phenomenal growth of these organizations, small cap companies who have come up in the last 3 to 5 years, who are essentially focusing on the data part of it. Marketing analytics and even HR analytics is a very, very interesting field because it's not only the key trend or hot area, but as a marketing analyst or an HR analyst, you get to analyze what is essentially happening. Let's say I can take a quick example of marketing analytics. If you're running an investment, if you're running a campaign in marketing, or if you run a promo, what is the ROI that has come out of it, right? And how can we optimize those campaigns further, right? What could be a projection of the spend of marketing dollars or rupees that we would do in the coming 15 months? All of it is actually a responsibility of marketing analytics person. And you also get a visibility of what's happening across the board as well. So changing roles, if you would have taken marketing analytics, is much easier than if you would have started with anything else. So don't shy away with analytics. I think that's a very, very interesting field, gives you a broad idea of what's happening across in the business.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Shahnaaz, any viewpoint on HR analytics?
Well, HR analytics again is very interesting, and I've had some very, very close encounters with the importance of HR analytics because we do have a vast global audits team, and they collaborate very closely with HR for HR delivery. This is to do with the audits and compliance. What is very straightforward is HRIS. We have the PeopleSoft, we have the SAP, and all of that, where there's a lot of records management and various tools and processes which keep getting launched and all of that. So that is one part of it, very straightforward. Is there a market for it? Yes, you may end up being in a company which is entirely into providing these services to bigger firms like an IBM or a Pega or a TCS, right? Where corporates sign up with your firm and you are the person who is the vendor for us. There are certain HR analytics and HRIS roles full time on the roles of big companies. And typically, what I have seen is, people do the checks, the audits, and this could be travel related. This could be, a lot of internal processes where you rely heavily on the intelligence, the data intelligence to make some quick decisions, and they are the enabling function for us. While HR in itself is an enabling function, there's a lot of HRIS and huge teams on the roles of Pega, if I could say, who are running the technologies and the process backbone through analytics. So it's very, very sought after.
Right. Right. So thank you, Samir, thank you, Shahnaaz, for answering all these questions. Well, we have few more left, but definitely what we'll do is now we have actually got an idea as to what the students are looking for, like looking for answers on HR analytics, marketing analytics, and other questions related to communication skills, and how about the future in finance and all that. So we have an idea, like what are the key areas where the students are now basically their questions are coming from. So we can take it up forward. But the key, the key area here is you need to all make yourself as a project basically for 2 years, and whatever you are getting taught in the MBA is just 25% of the project that you will be holding it for 2 years now in order to get placed, in order to get a good internship. Another 25%, another 75% lies in how you kind of get yourself into a field of networking, getting the right network, getting yourself updated with the right kind of technology. Like as one of the question was also on what kind of what other technologies we can adopt apart from the MBA studies, or what we can go forward with. So all these kinds of things will come up as part of your 75% activity which you'll be taking up as your project. So yeah, we'll meet again with and any questions you can feel free to mail across to Shahnaaz or Samir, or reach them on to their LinkedIn profile. So yeah, over to Shashadri.
Thank you, Ms. Manu. Success is a journey, not a destination. The doing is more often important than the outcome. And in today's session, we've got to know many things about MBA and a few tips on preparing for the future. I, Shashadri Subramanian, deem it a great honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks on this remarkable occasion. Let me start by thanking the Almighty for making today's session a successful one. On behalf of Christ University, I would like to thank Samir Akhtar sir, Shahnaaz Waheed ma'am, who despite their hectic schedule have found time to grace this occasion. Thank you sir and ma'am for enlightening us with your take on the journey ahead of us, which would help us in making the right decision at the right time to taste success at its best. Thank you Ms. Manu Batra for moderating this session and helping us to conduct the session smoothly. I would like to thank Christ University, Father VC, Dean, Associate Dean, HODs, and the Corporate Interface team for providing such a resourceful session for our batch. I would also like to thank all the participants of my batch for their active involvement during this session. I would like to mention that we have come to the end of today's Corporate Interface session on the journey ahead, all about MBA and prepping for the future. This is Shashadri Subramanian signing off. Have a great evening. Stay safe. Take care.